Mariah Bootaloo.
Mariah, okay. I wanted a little clarification on, you said one of your issues with the town manager was the audit. Now, the audit takes like 6 months to do before it comes out. How long has the town manager been here?
The town manager was hired on February 15th, 2012.
February 15th, 2012. So 5 months during that audit, you have concerns as the town manager.
It was actually the entire audit report.
Right, well, I understand. I've heard some of the issues regarding the audit and the lack of 1099s and other improprieties, but they didn't have anything to do with this town manager. They
Right.
had to do with the last town manager. So are you going to hold this town manager accountable for the mistakes of the last town manager? Just a question.
Okay. The audit report. I brought it. So let's go over it.
The whole thing right now?
Yeah.
It's just
Well, why don't we just go with the managers, I mean, the
The auditor's here, by the way.
That's okay.
He's willing to speak if you want that.
that works for me. I'd rather hear from the
Through the chair,
horse's mouth.
it would be entirely appropriate to listen to the auditor to give us the audit findings rather than have it secondhand.
Well,
Through the chair.
one moment.
Where is the auditor? Can you come up to the podium, please?
Ron Smith, Principal RHR Smith and Company. Bruce Nato, one of my associates with the company. We're the outside auditors, and the first time we've had the opportunity to audit the town of Old Orchard Beach. So I don't know what the legal ramifications are. I really don't want to get into a lot of details, but certainly we have been doing the audit now, I believe, since September of 2012. And given I think, transparency by your management and working with us to try to establish what some of the best practices are in the town of Old Orchard Beach, given the issues that we came in on with some of the very publicized matters with the library, et cetera, we certainly have some concerns. But we believe that your management is part of the solution. We have found your department heads clearly very responsive to our needs and our requests. We have found that there's a lot to understand in the town of Old Orchard Beach, and I'm not sitting here and prepared tonight to talk about a lot of those things, because there's a lot of things I still don't understand. But we have furnished you a letter. There are some issues that we have obviously identified. I think that a lot of the practices here didn't happen overnight. I think there's some long-standing practices that date way back in the town of Old Orchard Beach, and as I have talked with your legal counsel, as I've talked with your council chair, we recommended that a solution to this problem sooner than later was to get the right parties into the room so that we could talk about these problems, and I think that it was actually at the request of your manager that that actually happened as well. So we look forward to any opportunity to taking what it is that we know and working with you and getting to the best practices here in Old Orchard Beach.
Mr. Smith, can you clarify exactly what that letter is? Because my understanding that it was a draft, and there is no, the audit is not complete.
There is a letter, a preliminary letter.
Preliminary.
Preliminary, correct.
Key word, preliminary, not final, not done.
We are not close to being done here in the town of Old Orchard Beach.
We are not close to being done here in the town of Old Orchard Beach. Yeah, it's critical. That's a critical point. This whole thing has been blown up about the audit, and it's not even done. And in fact, when one of your associates met with us, he said he'd only been here for a week and a half. A week and a half.
I would say that's a fair statement, and I've
A
been here
week
for
and a
about a week.
half. You don't find all your problems in a week and a half, particularly all the problems that we have. Some of us who know where the ghosts are. Thank you.
Mr. Smith? Ron?
Yes.
We spoke briefly on the phone. The preliminary audit letter that Bruce, Mr. Nato, gave us has some pretty significant issues. listed in it.
We would agree we have some concerns.
Okay, and we probably should read it publicly so that we know what it says.
I'm certainly prepared to
No, and it's
respond to,
Yeah.
to whatever it is you guys want to talk about.
Well, we can only go based on what we were told during that executive
Sure.
session.
Listen, I'm not prepared to talk about that, nor is my associate. I wouldn't advise him to talk about whatever happened in executive session. I wasn't here.
No,
I
it's
wasn't
okay.
privy, but we certainly aren't going to share any of those.
Well, I did. It was a week and a half worth
So-
of work.
So please, if
Madam
one
Chair?
more, please.
Madam Chair, to this
Yes.
point, to this speaker here, I just have one question, Mr. Smith. Since I started here on February 15, 2012, with your preliminary audit, does it appear that all of the steps I have taken that you have observed have been according to the best management practices and in an effort to fix problems that I inherited on February 15, 2012?
I'd say what's a fair statement to say is the first time that we had met and having about a 2-hour conversation and bringing forth some of the very issues that we were talking about and your concerns, I would say that it's fair to say that you had your concerns, that you had put some of the best practices you could available and made us very well aware of what some other practices need to be implemented.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, Madam.
Madam Chairman? Would you also agree that you have found no wrongdoing on my part since February 15th of 2012?
I would say it's fair to say that we have found no wrongdoing on your part.
Thank you, sir.
So,
A baseless allegation that you made, Madam Chairman.
To the
Letter.
chair, can I just, okay, let's just, I mean, this is tough stuff here, okay? So let me just clarify one thing with regard to that first paragraph. When we first met with the auditor who wanted to express concerns, I specifically asked the question what the dates were of these reconciliations, these forced agreements to reconcile with the bank, and the answer was, and I wrote it down because I knew it was important, late fall, summer of 2011. Late fall and summer of 2011, several months prior to this town manager's hiring. So let's be completely factual and let's be completely clear. This is very preliminary. The chair asked for this letter to be sent to her directly. She then chose to share it with the rest of us. That's what this letter is, that's where this letter is coming from. This is a draft letter. The auditors are not done. But when it comes to this forced reconciliation, it clearly did not occur when this town manager was in office.
Through the chair.
yes.
This letter does indicate that the bank statements were reconciled through October 2011. And then since then, that's where the problems have developed.
I'm not prepared to say
No,
that.
that is not true. That is not true.
I'm prepared to say that they look like they were reconciled through October 2011, but we're smarter now since we wrote that letter, and we have some concerns, and I'll just leave that there.
Exactly.
Thank you.
It takes much longer than a week and a half to figure this mess out.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Cole.
I just want to read a sentence from the, or 2 sentences from the summary that I think will put this preliminary audit letter in perspective to the citizens of our town. 2 sentences in the summary section. Excuse me. Our observation is adequate controls have never been in place to detect these miscues and thus prevented corrective action from being taken. 2nd sentence. Although the town in the past few months instituted many needed controls, it appears more controls will be necessary.
And you want to get rid of the man who put these controls in place? Yeah, really? Yeah, okay. We need to move forward, folks, not backwards.
Is
Thanks.
this chairman not the one that was responsible for running the new finance director off in the first place?
All right, let's not take pot shots. I don't know that it's worthwhile to go through the rest of this preliminary draft letter. I think we need to wait for the auditors to finish their work. Give us a complete list of everything that we do need to put in place. We know it's a mess. I'm the one that kept asking the previous auditors to do internal controls, to look at our internal management controls, and he continuously refused. Go back and look at the videotape of December 20th, 2011. I was the only one. I've been saying it for years. We need to let these auditors do their work. They need to come back when it's complete. Then we can figure out what's what and what to do. But jumping the gun like this just makes us all look bad, and I'm sorry for that.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
could I ask the auditor a question?
sure.
As you're aware, Mr. Smith, Bruce Nato was at that meeting, and you've heard that he was asked a question by the chairman. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are we? And his answer was a 9. Can you qualify that on your experience? Because you were the one that went out to visit the department heads and looked at different information with me prior to Mr. Nato going in to speak to the council.
Bruce and I had a chance to-
There was,
Actually, the question specifically was, and Bruce is here.
And I don't know.
the letter, wait, the letter's been made public, okay? The letter's been made public. The letter's been made public.
So
I would like to inquire as to how.
the question I asked during the audit meeting that we had with the auditor was, on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being bad, where are we? And Mr. Nato, and he said to refer to him as Bruce, he said, you're at a 9.5.
You're in the nines.
You're at a 9s in Old Orchard Beach. On a scale from 1 to 10, he said we were in the 9s. That put up a red flag in my mind and in much of the other councilors' minds
Would you
that
like me
we
to,
had issues.
would you like me to respond to that?
I'd like Mr. Smith to answer that.
So just a couple of things, and Bruce can speak for himself. He's certainly made the statement, but Bruce and I haven't had a chance to talk about it. I'm well aware of what the state of Old Orchard Beach is, at least that I've seen, here right now. I think given on the fact before we walk in the door, and on the heels of what happened with your library, on the heels, if you keep reading of what's in that letter, I would think it's a fair statement for anybody to make an assessment that the state of the state on a scale of 9 to 10, given all that, would be a 9. Having said that, I think it's been a 9 for a very long time in the town of Old Orchard Beach, and I think when that question's been asked, as of whatever the date it was asked of my colleague, I think it's fair to say that 9 could go back long before this fiscal year started.
Sure, and we asked him that during the meeting,
And I hope his answer was?
No, what we asked him was, is this how we were? Should we go back at the old auditors and see, because maybe we've been fed the wrong information all these years? And he said, we really can't speak to that because we only looked at this one fiscal year. That was the answer, because we asked him if we should go back to Runyon and Kirsten and Willette and go back and after them, because they've been charging us $18,000 a year for our audit. And we had that discussion, because I told him, I quipped with him because you guys are less. And I said, for all these years, they've been charging us $18,000 for our audit. And he said, well, we only looked at this one fiscal year. I can't speak to that.
Well, a couple of things. I think we're charging you the same, so I can't speak for that. And I'm not prepared to comment about auditors and their other auditing practices. We are who we are. We're here to understand and what they did and what they tried to understand. I'm not here to speak for them or even offer to put myself in their shoes.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions about the status of this audit? Does the public have any questions about the status of this audit? Because apparently that's one of the issues, one of the concerns about the town manager. I'm just wondering, does anybody have any?
Through the chair, Ron, just so I'm clear, and so I think the public is clear, what you said is the problems at Old Orchard Beach are long-standing as they relate to the
I feel like I'm being
audit.
interrogated.
Yeah, you are being interrogated, friendly though. But as I understand it, these are long-standing problems.
Correct.
Okay. And that what we do know is that since the town manager has been here, he has taken positive steps to improve what we need to do to make a better audit. Am I right?
Correct.
That's all I want to know.
Ron, one quick question. So did you look at more than 1 year of our financial records?
We are in the process of going back to the previous year because we have some concerns.
Okay, but
To the
did you,
chair,
at the time,
which is
at the time
exactly
of,
what I asked him to do.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
you feel like in your professional opinion, you can make a determination on the previous year's audits?
No, I can't. That's why I'm going to go back and look at the previous year so that I can understand it better. I'm not prepared to sit here and talk
Right.
about you engaged us to do 2012, when we gotta go back to the previous year.
No,
and
I
look
agree.
at that, there's an issue.
It's fine. I'm just asking if you've done that yet.
We have not done it yet, but we will. We certainly have, we think it's in the best interest of Old Orchard Beach to do that.
Right, and I think that was the direction that we gave Mr. Nato during the meeting, to
Yep.
actually do that. That
No,
was the-
you didn't.
Yes.
No, you didn't. I kept asking for that, and you kept arguing with me about it.
Thank you.
Everybody did. I didn't, I was the only one that asked them to go back.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Furtado actually asked if there should be a forensic audit, which I did agree with, but that got shot down too. But I was the only
Through
one
the
that kept
chair.
saying.
Through the
Was I
chair.
not? Yes, I was. How can you tie, do you have a number to tie back to from June of 2011, June 30th of 2011? I kept asking that question, and we didn't know. And that has been my concern for a while.
Through the chair,
Yes.
Counselor Dayton is correct in the fact that she is the one that asked the question about them going backwards.
Several times.
That is correct.
Thank
She
you.
is not correct about saying that we all argued with her asking that question.
Yes, you did. I had no support, and I know how that trick works in executive session.
Yes,
where
through
you
the
can
chair.
claim you don't
Bolduc?
remember.
Counselor Bolduc?
I have grave concern that we're now talking about executive session things and would like to ask the attorney for a recommendation on the council on discussing executive session items.
It was in the paper. I don't understand how you can say this is executive session material when it's in the paper.
It was not by release of any counselor, I don't believe, other than maybe Councilor Coleman.
Oh. Okay, okay.
Madam Chair, you've lost control of this meeting. You're incompetent. You need to resign.
Let's not be mean. Let's not be
Attorney,
mean.
could the
It's
attorney answer
important
my
for the public to
question?
understand what this audit was all about, because it did cause a great deal of concern. Rightly so. But it's exceedingly premature.
What I'd like to accomplish, without having to have my wife call me, and read that I'm going to come to a meeting on a Wednesday night, is to accomplish some kind of timeout here. How about you let us do our job, and then how about we have an informative decision? That's what I'd like to accomplish. And I like to think that we have to be objective because that's our role. We work for everybody here in this room. We have some concerns, and I don't think that we're getting there faster to understanding those concerns, based upon what I'm hearing tonight. We just like to do our job. We'd like to certainly work with you guys, and we have every reason to believe that your management has been nothing but more forthcoming, in working with us. And we'd like to understand so we can give you information that you can make good business decisions. To me, it's just time for a timeout, and let us do our job, please.
Thank you, Ron.
Do you have any other questions of me, that could be asked? Well, I'm not prepared to sit here talking about forensic and all that. We've got so much stuff to understand before I could even advise you on what the next step is. And I don't want to use the word forensic. I don't want to use any of those words. I want to understand so I can sit down and have a conversation in good context so we can make good informed decisions here in this town. That's what I want to do. So,
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Smith.
thank you. It's a pleasure. And I really look forward to working with you all. Absolutely.
Yes.